Now yet again, the paper towel is going to prove its importance in this technique, because I've lifted quite a lot of that light red colour and I'm just taking the bulk of it off. And what I'm doing with the 1/2 inch brush, you can see, is that I'm just painting side by side and leaving a tiny gap in between the bricks. And of course that's where the watercolour is going to shine through. For the next row, I'm going to just leave a little bit of a gap. You can see there's still sufficient paint in the brush to create, well, what about a dozen or 15 bricks or so. Now I'm going to go into the ultramarine blue, and you see I'm catching this while it's still damp, and you can see the nice effect that you can get where it blends on the paper. This is another example of where you've got colours mixing on the paper rather than on the palette. Now if you wanted the bricks to be a touch bigger, then you just simply pull down some parallel overlap strokes like that. Now if you want some brickwork that's a little older, perhaps a little worn, a little rounded at the edges, perhaps seen better days, a little bit like myself, then the round brush is the way to go. Here I'm just producing the same sort of effect. You can see you've got to sort of actually paint a brick. Now this is another effect you can get. You can see where I've taken most of the paint off the brush and put it on the paper towel, and you can see just by dragging that sort of brush loosely across, I'm not worried about getting the sharp edge of the brick at all, but you can see that lovely free rough edged effect. Now I've done 2 patches of base colour as I did here before, but here I've actually continued and painted every brick in this wall, all sorts of different colours and tones. That's fine, but it's easy to make mistakes when you're doing a lot of bricks like this, because you're concentrating on trying to get them all in line, and you can even see this brick course is somewhat wavy to say the least. Now here what I've done is painted this same yellowy patch here, but I've actually added some other colours in while it's still wet. You can see I've added some blue and raw sienna, a little bit of burnt umber here. When it's all dried, I've painted individual bricks, but I've done them in such a way that just here and there they're set as if they were part of a proper brick course. Now that's much easier to paint because I'm only painting the fraction of the bricks here that I'm painting here. With painting, and watercolour painting especially, it's much more effective if you can very often suggest things and let the viewer make their own mind of what's actually there. Here I've painted the hint of a wall which is slightly in perspective. Here's the baseline and here would be the roof line. What I've done is started off with this very, very pale concrete colour, and while it's still damp you can see I've dabbed in some colours of ultramarine blue, touch of light red, a little bit more raw sienna. Gives us a nice variety of colour. If you go back in and you start painting again, bits of the paper you can see just there, that's quite nice, will stay damp and bits will be hard edged, and little bits of lighter coloured brickwork will suddenly start to emerge like that. And it's the sort of thing I wouldn't suggest you go straight into a painting like this. Have a little practice at this and have a little play. Right, now these perspective lines are still showing through the paintwork that I've done, so all I'm doing is just where the lines are, just putting a little hint of a few bricks here and there in those little clusters. When we're coming on this side of the wall, incidentally, don't forget you've got a full brick there. You can just about see that, so you'll only have a half brick there, half brick here, so you'll have a full brick there. Not at all difficult. That's the simple way to paint bricks.